Hi, my name's Jean, and back in September I was diagnosed with spinal stenosis. That diagnosis came about because of excruciating pain that went through my buttocks and down my left leg and into my foot. So subsequently, scans and MRIs gave me a diagnosis of spinal stenosis. I was then sent to see a specialist, and when I actually mentioned to him that I was actually having trouble getting signals as to when I needed to urinate or use my bowels, he then sent me to a surgeon. So I think the pain that you have with spinal stenosis is one thing, but when you have trouble with your bowel and your bladder, it then sort of ramps it up and becomes a different problem. So so that was in September, and I went to some physio first, and eventually, when I got to see a surgeon, it was decided that on the 19th of December I would go in and have a laminectomy and a decompression. Now that wasn't a decision that was easily made. There were, as in all operations, but there are risks, and I really wasn't sure that I wanted to go down, that track. But when my final MRI came back and I went back to see the surgeon, it was apparent that there really was no time to waste, and there really wasn't another decision to make, because the risks of not having the surgery or not having the surgery had its own different kind of risks. So I was booked in for the 19th of December to have the surgery. I thought this might be a bit of an interest for people that have gone through the process. I know that I watched different YouTubes and I found them to be, even if it didn't tell me anything new that I didn't know, it was nice to know that, okay, what I'm going through now is sort of normal. I don't feel that I got an awful lot of information when I first left the hospital. It's Christmas time. I wasn't due to go back and see the surgeon for a certain amount of time. I hadn't even got an appointment. So I thought that if I could just do some summarizing, I mean, obviously, we're way down the track now. In fact, it's January the 1st. But I thought that I would just put out a few videos just in case you got any benefit from it. So if you're interested in it, if you want to keep up with my following videos, perhaps if you could subscribe and even like and even share to someone who might be going through the same thing, it might just give you some insight. So I've actually written a few notes because, as I said, I'm already down the track a little bit, and my memory is absolutely shocking. So I had the surgery on the 19th of December at 11:30 in the morning. So I was, back to my room by 5:30. I didn't actually have any pain because I had a self-pumping gadget that, when I was feeling pain, you can press and it self-medicates you. You can't overdose with them, but it is very helpful to be able to not have to keep calling the nurse and just, get it done. So when I came around and I was more aware of my surroundings, I realized that I was actually laying flat on my back, and that did actually amaze me, because the thought of actually having an incision in my back and laying on my back, it didn't make me feel really, comfortable about doing that. But because I had a lot of meds on board, I wasn't really feeling any pain. During the course of the evening, I was given some sandwiches, and which I held down well. I do tend to hallucinate a fair bit when I come out of anesthetic, so that wasn't unusual to find that I was asking really weird questions. And the nurses were great, and they, I think it was every hour, came in through the evening and checked my vital signs, and I got through the evening and the night time fairly well. 8 o'clock on the night of the surgery was the last time that I actually used the self-medicating pump. I wasn't, and I mean, I still had drugs and anesthetic on board, but I wasn't really feeling a lot of pain. And so in the morning when I woke up, and the machine was showed that I hadn't used it since 8 p.m. the night before, they took that away, and then they decided that Panadol and ibuprofen, which is an anti-inflammatory, was basically what I would be given. And I was told that, should the pain get worse, then obviously tell them. I was told that I wasn't to bend or reach or twist my back, that I basically had to keep it as straight as I could. I was, instructed on how to get out of bed, and that was by doing basically, I think it's called a log roll. It's where you go onto your side and you pull your knees up to your chest, and basically in one movement you kind of sit yourself up. It was very awkward, and when I did move, obviously there was pain there. So in the morning, when the nursing staff came around, they suggested that I try going to the toilet. And so with their help, I got out of bed and was helped to the toilet. And that was difficult, to go to the toilet sitting down in one movement, and your back's got to be straight. And I did use my bladder, relieved my bladder, and I was very pleased that there didn't seem to be a problem, because I basically had not peed since, I think it was like 10 o'clock the morning before. So I was quite happy with that. Rang for the nurse, and she picked me up, and it was decided that I could sit in the chair. Again, I was happy with that, because I'd gone in knowing that there are different different sort of benchmarks that you have to reach to be able to go home, and I didn't want to stay in any longer than I had to. Plus, I had a family function a few days later, so I really wanted to go to that. But I sat in the chair. It wouldn't have even been 5 minutes, and I started feeling very lightheaded, and I really felt like I was going to faint. So I rang the nurse, and I got back into bed, and it was decided that perhaps I should stay in bed for the day, but get out and sit on the edge of the bed when meals come or a cup of tea come around. So that is what I did. Getting up was hard, as I say, using that leg roll, but and it worked, and so I implemented that. Again, no pain, just I think it was 4 or 6 hourly. I was having the Panadol and the ibuprofen, and that was working quite well. On day 2, when I woke up, I was disappointed to find that now, as well as having the numbness in my left leg, that now my toes and my foot and halfway up my calf on my right leg was numb, and it was a fair bit number, if that is a word, or more numb than the left. And so that was very disappointing and scary. And I knew that recovery takes quite a while, but I wasn't expecting anything new to pop up. The doctor came, and the nurse advised him, and they sort of tested the strength in my feet, and both feet were slightly weaker with the strength, but they didn't seem overly concerned, and I was reassured that lots of things can happen. You've got a lot of swelling in there, you've had a lot going on in there, and so it's, you know, sort of don't get discouraged. It's one of those things, and time should do its thing. So I sort of took a little bit of comfort in that. And anyway, that day I got out of bed by myself, and I took myself and went to the toilet, and I was able to shower. Now, because I have plasters on my back, I wasn't allowed to get my back wet. So I basically, there was like a handheld shower. So I basically just washed the front of myself, and got a face washer, or a flannel, wherever you're living, it's got called different, and just basically washed myself over. And gee, it felt good. It felt, I didn't realize how, you know, just that shower sort of changed even my mental status. I was very pleased that I'd done that myself. I knew that that's a little milestone that you have to get through, go to the toilet by yourself. And I was very happy that both my bladder and my bowel was working. So again, that's a milestone to help you get out of the hospital. The hospital I was in was a private hospital, and they were absolutely amazing. So the pain is still minimal, still only on Panadol and ibuprofen. The physio came around on that day and showed me exercises that she recommended that I do. She also recommended short walks around the ward, and to try to do that 2 or 3 times in the course of the day. Because of my numbness in my legs and my toes, I was pretty well reliant on walking stick that I had. I didn't have any real confidence in walking, and she suggested that after a couple of times of walking around the ward, that perhaps, you know, I took the walking stick to give me some confidence, but didn't actually use it as far as connecting it to the floor, and to build up confidence that way as well. So I did that. The doctor came around, not my actual surgeon, but he has an offsider. Again, was happy with it, how everything was going, and I was, you know, as I say, getting in and out of the bed by myself. My mental state had picked up again, and I was hoping that I was actually going to get out of hospital, because I had something on the next day. So basically on that day, I was sitting out most of the time, but you can't sit for, you know, longer than about 20 minutes. So I would sit for a while and walk around and get back into bed for a while, just to sort of take the pressure off of sitting. Neither was particularly comfortable. It wasn't painful, it just wasn't comfortable. And you know, I was just looking, I just wanted to go home at that stage. So the doctor said that that was fine, I could go home. I'd had the drain removed, I'd had you know, the needle in your hand where they put the drip in and stuff. I'd had everything removed. So, you know, I said yes, I would like to go home, because I couldn't see that one more day was going to make a difference to me. He offered to give me a script to take home for medication, but I felt that, well, 2 things. I was in a hurry to go home, and I know that if you take medication, it could take you hours for it to go through the system. But I'd not had any other thing other than Panadol and ibuprofen, so I did opt to not worry about the medication. And yep, so I got dressed, and my husband, who was there every day with me, walked me down to the front reception area where I waited for him to go and get the car. And because he didn't realize I was coming out on that day, he bought his little Suzuki Swift. And when I saw it pull up the driveway, I just shook my head, and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to get in that, you know? because it was really low. Anyway, so he helped me get in, and I was not comfortable at all, but we got home and was very happy to be home. Early that day, which was the day 3, we had a family do that was due to start at lunchtime. Now, not long after getting out of bed that day, I developed a pain that would run through my buttocks and into like the top of my leg at the back. But rather than be like a pain, it was like an electric shock, and it would come on if I sort of took too big a step, or if I sat down on the toilet, or sat down on the couch, or try to get up, and it was like a real bolt of electricity, and it almost sent my my body into a spasm. And of course there's an uncontrollable screech that comes out, and in fact it would make me, if I was talking, it would make me really stutter, almost like I had Tourette syndrome. And it was bad. It was really bad. And it was at this point that I'm thinking, I should have took those medications from the hospital. I need something more than, Panadol. Doctors were shut. The surgeons were away. I did ring the hospital, and I'm like, because they were going to give me a special medication because I'm allergic to tramadol, endone, and codeine, and we had discussed another painkiller that would be good. But I rang the hospital to say, like, hey, can you, if nothing else, can you give me the name of the meds, and I'll see if I can find a doctor that's going to do it. But all my paperwork had gone back to administration, and so that was a bit so tense and everything, because it's like I didn't want to be in this pain, and we're going out, and But prior to the operation, I had been on fentanyl patches, which was slow release, and I did have some left, and so I made the decision that I was going to use one of those. I mean, it takes some hours. I think it might even be 20 hours or something to get into your system, but if this was going to keep up, I needed something. So I made that decision to go back on them. The doctors had prescribed them in the first place, and I thought that would be, I've already been on them, so I know that I don't hallucinate with them, and they don't affect me majorly. And that would do until I got back to a doctor that could give me some advice. So day 3 ended up with electric shocks. Went to the family dinner. I sat too long. I didn't want to get up because I was going to make these horrible noises, because I know the pain was going to hit. I was frustrated, aggravated. How long is this going to be? How long before I can bend, sit properly? By the time I come home, I'd had a great time, but I just felt so aggravated, and I sat too long because I didn't want to move, and I felt tired again and weak, and I just should have moved more. I should have got up and walked around and done those things that I'd been doing at home, and I just didn't. So I learned a few lessons that day, that I'm a very private person. I don't like drawing attention to myself, and but I should have sort of said, no, I've got a goal to reach. These are my goals. I've got to move. I can't sit too long, and hopefully the patches are going to kick in, and everything's going to be good. And over a few days, it didn't make any difference. The patches, I just never felt made any difference. So on day 3, when it was time to change the patch, I took it off and didn't put it back on, because I don't feel like it did anything, and I don't like taking any kind of drugs or having any drugs that I don't need in my body. And so I made that decision then that, you know, I didn't need it. And the pain wasn't any worse without it. It was bad anyway, but it wasn't any worse. So right now, I'll end the video here, but so I guess a summary was maybe to remember it's not going to be an instant fix. To have a goal, if you're going to have surgery, but you've probably had surgery, but if you haven't got enough information, go back to your doctor and get the information. You know, how long will I be this, and how long before I can bend, and you know, get that information, because that's an aggravating part as well. Like, you don't know how long it's going to take you to get to the next step. It is a slow process apparently for a lot of people, because since I started watching YouTube, it seems to be. I really, when I look at some of the people on the other YouTube channels, I did well. You know, the things that I'm telling you about that I went through, I don't think are as bad as what, you know, a lot of people do. That basically was a quick summary of my first 3 days after my operation. And, you know, if you want to check out my next video, I shall sort of tell you how things went for the next few days. And so subscribe to my channel, please like. And I'm not a YouTuber, as far as I like putting up videos for my family to see on YouTube. But if this can give you a bit of help, then it's worth watching. So hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Just remember, be kind to yourself, get some help from people, and stick to the rules. If they say don't bend, don't bend. And if you've got physio or exercises to do them. Even if you don't do every kind that they say, make sure you do some of them. But be kind to yourself. I'll see you in the next video.